Good day all. I'm going to do a series of my rules videos now, but I'd start off with the basics, and you can use these for any other sets of rules really. There's no hard and fast rule, which is one of the problems with Napoleonic, which I found when I started. There's no real hard and fast rule for basing, so you kind of go with whatever rule sets are available. So I base these for my rules, but you could also use them for black powder and other rule systems. So what I'll do is I'll start off with your basic unit. So I'll just move these commanders out of the way for a second. So your basic unit would be a battalion, which is mine are made of 24 men. You can do them with 36 strong, but I quickly realised that if I painted my units as 24s, I could get 3 units instead of 2 doing it the other way. But I did start doing 36 man units, but there's a lot more painting involved. And also, if I show you, it's the footprint of them. Because most of us haven't got acres of space to play in. We can only play on a 6 foot by 4 foot table. And if you have 36 men units, they do take up a lot more space. So, what do you get in a battalion? So if you're making a basic infantry battalion, it's pretty much the same for any nationality that you do. At one end you will have the light company. These are your skirmishers. Most sets of rules they don't really play much of a part. Some people do like to base them so that there's 2 men to a base and then they can place them out in front of the units. And they offer some benefits. I've got that in my rules, but I'll explain that when I start explaining the rules better. And then at the other end you'd have a grenadier unit with the bird's nest on the shoulders. You'll get sometimes you get NCOs and sappers. They don't really play any part in the rules. They just add a bit of interest to your base. So that's that. And then you'll have a command unit. So on there you'll get your drummer, your officer that leads the unit, and your colour bearers. You can, in some rules, upgrade your officer. So I've done that. I've put a mounted guy in some of them. It doesn't have to be mounted, but I've just done that to represent that he will be, a slightly higher level. So that is your battalion. So, basing. I base mine, there we go, these are the 3rd Regiment Foot, East Kent, the Buffs. I base mine on 45 by 45 mil squares. Most people do them on 40 by 40s, but I got the slightly bigger ones just so I could put more tufts on the base because I've got a bit of a thing for tufts. And then some people base them on 60 by 40s and have a 36 man strong unit, as I said, but the footprint is a lot bigger. Both ways are right. I mean, it's entirely up to you really how you want to do them. But as I say, if you do them in units of 24, and if you buy the warlord boxes, they come in 24s anyway, you'll have less painting to do for more units. So from that, what do you need really to get started? What's the best way to build an army? So, we'll stick with the infantry for now. I'll move all these to one side. So a basic, you got your basic battalion, and then if for argument's sake you play back powder, what you want then is 4 battalions, like that, and then 4 battalions will give you a brigade, and then you'll also need a brigade commander, and he basically issues orders to all these guys. I'll explain that more in the rules when I run through the next part of the video when I explain orders and all that sort of stuff. But to get you started, you can have more battalions, but 4 is, pretty much the rule of thumb. If you go with 4, you can't go far wrong. In my rules, you can have less or more, but I'll explain that when I get into talking about my actual rules and how to build an army using my rules. But if you stick with this and you're new to Napoleonics, you can't go far wrong. So you need to paint up 4 battalions and a brigade commander. And then you will have, that would be 1 brigade. So once you've got your brigade together, your infantry brigade that is, let's pop them back. You might want to add some cavalry. So if you're playing on a 6 foot by 4 foot table, you'll only need 1 or 2 units of cavalry to get you going. So for argument's sake, I've got 1 cavalry battalion here. And if you had half a battalion, that would be a cavalry troop. But you can split them in 2 and have 2 units like that, or you can have them as 1 big unit. So basing again. So I've based these on 50 by 50 bases. Now across the board, pretty much the rule of thumb, most people do that. They'll put them on a 50 by 50 base, and then they are pretty standard. Again, I have seen people put 3 horses to a base and just have 4 bases rather than 6. But again, there's no hard and fast rule. You can't go wrong if you do it either way. It's just aesthetically how you like it to look. So if you're playing on a 6 foot by 4 foot table, get yourself 1 or 2 units of cavalry, and that'll do you to start off with. And after that, you want to add some artillery. So I've got here a small battery, and these are 1 howitzer, 2, I can't remember the size of them guns, so I'm not going to say it, 2 guns. There are different rules, again, for different types of gun. You've got bigger guns and smaller guns, and each set of rules will explain how they work. But basically, you put 4 crew and a gun to a base. I think these are 60 by 100 that I've based them on, but there's no hard and fast rule again for basing with these. And in a battery, so I've got a small battery here, so it's just 2 guns and a howitzer. You could have 4 guns. Most rules only allow 1 howitzer per battery, and my rules are the same. So I could have another gun, and that would give me a full battery, and the howitzer. Some armies are allowed more guns, like the Russians and the French. So you could have 5 gun battery. It'll be explaining the rules. But for a 6 foot by 4 foot table, you don't really want many more than 3 anyway, because otherwise they'd be too powerful. And it just spoil the game. So that's that. And then last of all, you need an overall general. And your general is in charge of everybody. They work differently in different sets of rules. I'll explain how they work in my rules when I get into that part of the video. But for now, I'm just going to go through, stick with the basics. So for a starter army, you could buy the warlord British or French or any of them starter armies. The only thing you'd have to add would be a couple of cannons, and I think you'd get 1 brigade commander, so you'd probably need 1 more. And that would give you a good starter army to play on a 6 foot by 4 foot table. I base all my commanders on round bases. I can't remember what size they are, to be honest. I put the sub commanders on a slightly smaller one, and the overall general on a slightly bigger one, so I know who's who. You could put them on square bases if you prefer. I just like the look of the round bases, which is why I've done that. And then that would be the start for your army. And you could quite happily play with that. But then if you wanted to expand it, just double your infantry. I wouldn't probably ever go any more than 2 batteries of guns, because you're never going to get to use them. You need lots of commanders. I haven't painted anywhere near enough yet. I've still got loads to paint. But if you doubled your infantry, added another cavalry, that'd give you a bit more again. And that's how you slowly expand it. Just expand it a brigade at a time. So 4 battalions of infantry will give you a brigade, and just expand it a brigade at a time, paint a brigade commander, and that's the easiest way to build your Napoleonic force. Just do it a brigade at a time. And the cavalry, because I hate painting cavalry so much, I just tend to do one every now and then. So yeah, maybe you know, do your brigade of infantry and then paint up a unit of cavalry. So I hope that's been helpful. If you've got any questions, please pop them down the links. I'm no expert on the Napoleonic era. I do know quite a bit, but yeah, I'm not an expert. But for wargaming purposes, this is kind of where you need to be. This is what you want to get you going. And if you did this force and then an opposing force of French or Austrians or Russians or Brunswickers or whoever, take your pick, because there's hundreds. You know, you could have a nice little decent game. It'd take about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then with my set of rules, you can even play it solo. But this is where you can get started. So you're looking at probably about £100 there to get you into Napoleonics, which is not much, especially if you're coming from the 40k universe where you can pay £100 for a couple of tanks. Your quid's in. And these guys have some good intrinsic value as well. If you paint them up really well, you can get some decent money for them on eBay. If you decide, you know, at some point it's not for you, you want to sell them, you'll get your money back, and plus a lot extra. Anyway, that's the first part of this video. It's already a bit longer than I anticipated. As I say, if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments. I will try and answer them if I can. And if not, I'll look into it and see if I can find an answer somewhere else. But that'll get you started. So, to recap, a unit is called a battalion. You've got normal infantry, a command stand, light infantry, and grenadiers. Then if you get 4 of them together, each 4 battalions together, that becomes a brigade. And you can mix your brigades as well. You can put cavalry and artillery in some rule sets. So that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. The next video will be more about my rules, and I'll try and keep them short and sweet. Thanks for watching.